Hi, welcome back for another spinning in Cowgirl boots. I'm working with the same stuff as before. My polwarth wool, I've finally got 2 bobbins filled up. It's a slow process, especially for me, but now I'm ready to ply. And thinking about how slow this has been, and thinking about how long it takes me to make any kind of yarn at all. Spinning wasn't always done for fun. It used to be drudgery. It used to be something that every woman can do, and she didn't get a lot of glory or thanks for it. She was expected to spin all the time. If you were an unmarried woman, you spun every spare moment. Young girls had to help support their families, and make all of their wedding clothes. And if you were an older woman without a husband or children, what did they call you? A spinster. Guess what they had to do every single moment with either at the wheel, with a drop spindle or a table spindle of some kind, they were spinning. Which brings me to the tale of the 3 spinners. Our tale starts with a teenage girl who won't spin because it's boring. She doesn't want to do it. And her mother, who expects her to spin anyway. So, after this brief clash of wills, the mother decides to beat the teenager. And I'm talking like a really good beating, like a child abuse worthy beating. And as she's doing so, the queen wanders by and says, "Oh my, why are you beating this child?" The mother doesn't want to admit that she has a worthless daughter that won't spin, so she lies. And she says something like, "Oh, the girl will never stop working. You can't make her take a break. She spins all day from dawn till dusk, and the only way to make her stop is to beat her." The queen says, "Oh, really? Well, I can see how that would totally get on your nerves. I'll tell you what, Mom, I'll take her off your hands. Yeah, she'll come live with me at the castle." And the mother says, "Please, God, yes, thank you." So off they go, the queen and the teenage girl. They go to the castle. The queen takes her to the top floor and shows her new room. And her room is full of unspun flax, floor to ceiling. And there's a spinning wheel. The queen says, "If you can spin all of this in 3 days, I will let you marry my son, the prince, and you will be a princess." And then she walks out and locks the door and locks the kid up with all of the spinning work. But she's a teenager and she's lazy and she doesn't want to do it, so she doesn't. And 2 days later, the queen comes back and absolutely nothing has been done. And the queen is a little surprised, wants to know what's the problem. Well, the girl lies, like mother, like daughter. And she says, "Oh, well, I'm just so terribly homesick for my mother and I couldn't bear myself to spin." "Aw," says the queen, "oh, you poor thing. I can see how you miss your mommy. That's so sad. Well, I'm sure that you'll feel better soon, and as long as you get all the spinning done by tomorrow, it'll be fine," and leaves and locks the door. Well, guess what? The teenage girl is still not going to do it. So she goes to bed. And in the middle of the night, 3 women appear out of nowhere. So instead of, screaming her head off or trying to beat them to death with the spinning wheel, the girl just sits up and has a nice chat with them. And these are not normal women. They are misshapen. One of them has an enormous oversized foot. Just the one. And the other has big giant red swollen up thumb. And the third has a huge stretched out mouth. I mean, her lip is so stretched out and so huge that it hangs below her chin and kind of swings around like a pendulum. She asks these very unique ladies what they want, and they tell her they are there to spin all the flax. And all they want in return is to be invited to the wedding and introduced to everyone as her relatives, and they want a seat at the head table with all the cool people. The teenager is lazy, but she's not stupid, so she says, "Yeah, sure, you can do that. That'd be fine," and goes back to bed. And when she wakes up in the morning, the 3 women are gone, and all the flax has been spun. So when the queen walks in, boy, is she surprised and happy, and says, "Oh my, you got it all done in one night, huh? Well, then you are worthy to be my daughter-in-law," and gets right to work planning the wedding. And when the wedding comes, the 3 old ladies show up, the 3 spinners, And the little girl, she does her part. She introduces them to everybody as her aunt, and she sits them at the table with her new royal in-laws. And everyone's being very nice and pretending that they're not hideously ugly. Everybody but the king, who's probably had too much to drink or something, because he says, "Oh my God, what's wrong with these women?" And the three women tell the king, "We look like this because we're spinners, because we've been spinning our whole lives. I have a big misshapen foot because my foot is always on the treadle. And my sister has a huge red swollen thumb because she's always holding the flax. And my other sister has an enormous stretched out mouth because she's always wetting her fingers with her spit to spin flax, which is how you do it, which I think is totally gross. I've spun some flax and I don't believe in sticking your hands in your mouth and spitting all over the place. But that is how they did it." Well, the king looks at these grotesque women and he looks at his beautiful new daughter-in-law and he says, "Ha! Well, I'm not having that. You, little girl, will never be allowed to spin again. I'm not having my son married to a woman who looks like one of those." And that's the end of the story. I know, it seems very unsatisfying to us because nothing bad happens to that wretched little brat who won't do her spinning. Nothing. But this story is so popular that that version I told you is from Grimm's fairy tales, but there's also one you can find in Scotland. There's a version of it in Italian, and according to Wikipedia, Wikipedia never ever lies to you, there's a version in Puerto Rico. They must tell this story all over the world. And it's because if you were a woman who was stuck spinning every moment of your life, you'd be wishing that the good fairy and her two sisters would show up and save you too and get you out of all your spinning forever. But I think it's just wishful thinking. I've been wishing that the good fairy would show up and do like my dishes or finish my knitting or, do all the ironing. God, I hate ironing. And she's never once shown up. I don't think you know what? I don't think the good fairy is real. And I think that we're all going to have to do all our own ironing and all our own spinning. Yes, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to finish this off on my own, but fortunately, no one's making me do it. And I enjoy it. And for me, it's a love and a hobby and not drudgery.